Alright, Sinners, the vampire horror / blues musical / historical drama starring Michael B. Jordan, is still in theaters, and it's getting a lot of attention.
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
gets the people going.
So I wanted to quickly talk about the main reasons I think the movie works, and how it pushes past some of the hiccups that it has. And let's just get started with the most obvious reason this is a must-see. This movie is getting a lot of praise, but I do think it's important, when critiquing something, to at least try to look at the shores when enjoying the current. So towards the end of the video, I will list my issues with the film. Until then, we're just not going to beat around the bush and talk about the main thing everyone's talking about, the music. And at first, I wasn't quite sure what the hype was about. Yes, it does a good job replicating Mississippi Delta old school blues. Think Robert Johnson with his complex and twangy guitar patterns. The performances, both in the singing and playing, are impressive. However, I wasn't sure why it was getting so much attention over previous bluesy scores like Black Snake Moan. Like, do modern audiences really like blues this much? As the movie went on though, I started to understand. It wasn't just the detail of its bluesiness, but how it merged with a more traditional horror score. Blues is, after all, melancholy, and lyrically goes to some pretty dark places. I love the film's concept of how music brings people together, but can also attract evil, and the score complements this every step of the way. And then we get to the halfway point, and what follows is nothing short of extraordinary. It's essentially a collage of black music through history, but all playing together, harmoniously, and yet not in a way where each genre loses their identity. There's blues piano, electric guitar, African drums, a DJ, twerking. It is glorious. A crazy, ambitious idea that has purpose in the story and is executed beautifully. Lately, I see great movies, or better yet, I have to search and find great movies, and sometimes feel within great movies, I'm not always getting great scenes, you know? Like a scene that really knocks me out, a scene I can't shut up about. When you watch a movie, you hope for at least one of those, and Sinners has two. One I just mentioned, and a short while later when the villains get their own song, this time a traditional 19th century Irish jig called Rough Road to Dublin. It works on every level. Historically, the Irish and African Americans used music to share their grief and find healing. And to see both the heroes and villains in this story do this is fascinating and gives a lot of depth to both sides. The additional drums and escalating vocals bring the right kind of intensity to the song. Jack O'Connell hits all the right notes emotionally. And the scene itself is just awesome. A folk dance both happy and sad, while the yellow eyes from vampires gleam in the darkness. There's so much skill and experimentation in this musical score, and most importantly, it matches the film's themes of community, spirituality, and violence. It's still early, but it would blow my mind if this score wasn't nominated for an Oscar. Then again, it's horror. An actor playing multiple characters, or even twins, isn't new, but I really appreciate what Jordan does, or more specifically, doesn't do. He doesn't show off. Oh, the characters are show-offs at times, but Jordan isn't going for an Oscar. He's not trying to do this big acting leap by playing two widely different characters. Oftentimes we see that, the actor playing opposites. It's a good way to show your strength as an actor, and it's not even a bad thing necessarily for film. It can be fun, it can suit the story. However, Jordan distinguishes the brothers, but doesn't make them polar opposites. Smoke and Stack have their differences, but share similarities too. And it makes sense, being business partners, cocky with success, and needing to show a united front during negotiation. So Jordan is kind of taking a step back, doing enough to make each one distinct, but not overdoing it or returning them into cartoons. He's not yanking the spotlight on himself. And this works because in more ways than one, the film isn't really about them. They are part of a larger story that bounces through time. I don't know how much of this acting choice was purely Jordan's or director Coogler's, but most likely it was a bit of both, and to me, this was the correct choice. Real quick, I wanted to mention how Sinners brims with a sense of research. The sets feel authentic, feel lived in and worn. The piano sounds like a real decades, possibly century-old piano, the kind that almost sounds a little out of tune. I like how sweaty characters look during specific scenes, especially in the third act, which helps retain us in the Mississippi setting. I can't speak to the accents because I honestly don't know how accurate they are, but they did, again, help me buy the setting, and they were also very consistent. Delroy Lindo's movements and facial expressions were perfect for these musical performances, where the music seems to channel almost something mystical through one's body. It all comes across as just so blues, intertwined with the time and place and all the emotions that come with it. I know I'm supposed to just say positives and cheer with the rest, but I do think Sinners has some sins. I'm fine with a slow build-up, and do think its first half establishes its characters well, but you could lose 10-15 minutes from this easy. I found much of the dialogue, especially in the first half, difficult to understand. Part of it I can't blame the movie for, I'm not used to these accents, but the sound mixing could have been better. It reminded me of Netflix dialogue mixing, or Bane talking in his sleep. Some of the action is fun and appropriately grotesque, some of it is surprisingly bland. We get a lot of those moments where someone should be dead, but the vampire decides to pause, or monologue, or throw them rather than eat them, for no reason other than that they noticed the script and saw it wasn't time yet. The CG fire isn't great, and lastly, the jump scares are pretty terrible, ineffective, and immature, like it had to remind us that it was a horror film. I'm fine with them during actual horror sequences, but in that first half, it's such an unnecessary nuisance, and honestly, the movie is better than that. And yet, I consider Sinners a must-see movie. The music must be heard to be believed, and you need the visual context to really get that delirious sweat going. Michael B. Jordan gives possibly his best performance, and the story does a good job setting up motivations and balancing the different genres. It also has one of the best whoop I've ever heard. I'm torn between a 7 and an 8 on this one, so I don't know if I agree with every piece of praise, but I do agree with the energy behind it. Sinners is wild and original and well made, and my god, is it nice to say those words about something in theaters. So, have you seen Sinners yet? What other bluesy movies or crazy horror films would you recommend? Check out the playlist for my other horror reviews, and click the link to the Patreon below for some fun rewards. As always, thanks for watching.